Welcome to the Firespitting with BS01 podcast, where we absolutely roast Bionicle. I am Swert, and with me are
Dorek,
Spirit,
and Chols, actually not dead.
Chols is not dead.
I am not dead. I just hide a lot.
Well, it is good to have you on. Welcome to what is essentially going to be probably the hottest topic thus far, even though we've only been to 3 episodes so far.
Hot like plasma.
I'm glad you brought that up, because maybe this will be electrifying.
oh boy.
Okay, that was bad.
It's only downhill from here.
It's going to
Yes.
suck like vacuum.
So, today we are discussing...
it doesn't get better.
It's going to get worse. Today we're going to be discussing the secondary elements of Bionicle, and more specifically why Greg keeps ignoring them.
But also not ignoring them?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was the opposite problem. Like, there's too many of them.
I guess the better subject would be that Lego ignores them. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, I mean, it's such a convoluted, complicated thing. Like, I think you can also look at them like the alternate lightsaber colors in Star Wars. Where
That's a fair
officially,
point.
up until very recently, there were only the 4 colors. You could have a red lightsaber, a green lightsaber, a blue lightsaber, and then if you're Mace Windu, a purple one, and then if you're Rey, like a yellowy one.
Yeah, that one's real now.
Yeah.
In the expanded one, wow, you can get a gray lightsaber, you can get an orange lightsaber, you can get a rainbow lightsaber.
And while you're at it, there's also the black saber, which is not the same as the dark saber, which is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Those are different things. Oh, man, I'm so glad I don't pay attention to Star Wars.
It's fine. Disney already took care of it. They just chopped off the expanded multi-universe altogether.
But like it's like they're there, but they're not there. So why don't we like I think to properly explore this, we got to start from the beginning. Because
Absolutely.
Little known fact, Bionicle originally only had 4 elements. You guys know this?
So go ahead and explain which of those 4 were.
It was fire, water, earth. Was it Anua? Yeah, earth and fire, water, earth, and air.
Air?
The
Okay.
Avatar ones. And then Pohatu and Kopaka were added on as like, oh wait, we want to sell more products.
And then the Bahatu and Kopaka Nation attacked.
What if we got harder earth and colder water?
Right, but no, it's exactly that. It's like, the 2 they added, they were just variations on one that already existed. Like, you couldn't even take, rock and turn that into, like, metal, go with the Chinese elements. No, it's just rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stone,
well,
rock,
I guess originally, like because Bionicle is like an evolution of the Slicers and the Throwbots and the Robo Riders. It's all about different biomes, and they are very different biomes. That's correct. But then when it started to become more of like a superhero comic, and then you factor in like Pokemon rules of like the elements are very set in stone, divided, different powers and abilities. Sort of, it doesn't make sense to have an ice and a stone element if you also have earth and water.
And
This is true.
Not to be outdone, but the sets, compare them to the previous things like Slicers and Robo Riders and stuff like that. Color palettes didn't change too much, so they were keeping very much in similar themes for stuff to sell with enough variants.
Well, one of the major changes was certainly with Bahatu being the... I mean, I hate to label it, but the brown set. I mean,
he is the brown set. That's just fact.
But you see what I'm saying. So ultimately, what it came down to is, you're right, the color palettes aren't too dissimilar from what they did with Slicers/Throwbots and with the Robo Riders.
Are you suggesting that one of the whitest countries doesn't understand racial diversity? Is that what you're telling me?
I wasn't going to be the one to say it, but now that you mention it.
Yep.
All I know about Bahatu is he's got them hips.
And the kicks. In fact, that was the original names, of course. They literally just went by their tools.
Yeah, their original tools, yeah.
Yeah, what does this one do? He moves one leg. Okay.
We'll call him
Kick. What is this one? Well, it's got claws. Cool. We'll call them claws. But what about this one? Well, it's got a claw too. We'll just call it
I'll
hook.
give her a yeah, a hi-ya, and a hoo-ah, and a kicker, sir.
Shoot, I'm remembering this. Oh my gosh, is that an Anastasia reference?
That is an Anastasia reference. Thank you
That was
very
in
much.
somebody else's VHS cabinet. Good to know.
Wow.
Absolutely. We are old.
We are
Little bit.
old.
Welcome to
bit.
the Old Man Podcast.
Yes.
If I didn't have a specific way to name these, I would immediately call this the Old Man Podcast as the secondary title.
We're just a bunch of old men yelling at clouds.
Uh,
Why are there clouds in Metro Nui? This is the next episode.
I was just gonna say, like, be thankful that cloud wasn't like an element because somebody thought about it.
Oh man!
I bet I could go on BZP and find a mock of like Toa of Cloud. I'll be like, oh sweet.
We definitely need to get into the subject of what exactly are the secondary elements after we get past the primary.
Well,
Because
it could have
that's the main topic.
It could have been a lot worse. Like for the throwbots and the slicers, like one of the elements was city.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Because that's actually the biome, not it was talking about the biome that they were from.
Oh, I'm looking at the sets. Like these were not very good. Sorry
No.
if anyone's a
No, they were
robot
amazing.
or
You shut
slicer
your
fan. These are I don't know. I don't think I'd buy these products.
You're not
so-
interested in the
here's
riveting
the thing.
characters of Torch and Scuba?
Here's the thing: nobody did buy them. That's why they made Bionicle.
Well, I mean,
Was
Slicers
judge
at
supposed
least
to
did
be
like
is that an element or is it like the judge that decides over everyone? What was the lore here?
You know, that
there
that's a
wasn't
whole
much
different
lore,
subject.
but I think the original intent was like, yeah, that he kind of presided over that great competition that was supposed to happen between them, even though the details of what that competition actually was were never fleshed out.
Yeah,
The
I
Hunger
kind of skipped
Games.
the tournament arc.
Oh, would have made a great anime.
No, not really.
What I also did appreciate about the slicers was the display case that they came with that you could put on your belt. I actually have all of those containers.
Yep.
Can you get
Just
all
because
of
I
them on your belt at once and become the ultimate Slicers fan?
Actually, no. I would put them on like a God. What is that thing you put around? Spirit, help me out. What does Worf have? You know what I'm talking about? A sash.
The sash.
Yeah,
the
Chewbacca
word
thing.
eluded me. Yes, I'm
Mandalorian.
leaving that in because I want to
The
make
beauty
it sound
queen
like
sash.
I would literally put all of those on a sash, just put it on my chest and be like, what now?
We are getting
I'll
so far
probably be
away from
arrested.
elements.
We've
We've
so
gone
far.
to the secondary of the secondary topics.
I'm leaving this all in, you know. Oh, I got
Okay.
to even set my timer.
Oh, this is fun.
But yeah, I guess sort of where I was going with that is that, it came from a different place and then evolved to something different. And I mean, in Pokemon, they are different elements. Like ice is different to water, earth, ground is different to rock. Like, I guess, like in that regard, it kind of makes sense. Sort of, not that Bionicle ever really explored the difference between earth and stone. They are effectively the exact same.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and that's the thing. A Pokemon at least allows for like some crossover. Like an ice type can learn a lot of water moves, and nobody really bats an eye. And but occasionally a fire type can also learn like a fighting move, and it makes sense for their individual things. With Bionicle, there's
Right.
too much, I guess, homogeny, and so the fact that these elements are so similar does not help its cause.
Well,
it's like
I
there
think the
are
way
lines between them. Sorry, Swert. There's like lines between them, but then they blend in their purpose, and it's like, well, why is there a line?
right. Honestly, what it is we do kind of have to go back to Pokemon, like Spirit said. There are two types immediately that come to mind, which is ground and rock, but they are not necessarily the same at all. Yes, there's some crossover there, but it's not nearly as much. I think that's what they were looking at with Onua and Pahatu when they were first developing them. Is, well, technically, there's the stone and then there's dirt. Can you say a stone is basically dirt?
Dirt is
I
just
mean-
really small stones.
It's very
That's sand,
true.
different element.
Sand's
Well, but then we
included.
get kind of like
We'll
even
get
further.
the sand.
we get further down the rabbit hole of what it is. And no, exactly, but like, the smaller you go, like, but the more applicable it is, because at some point Vakama can control heat. But even then, like, there is some precedent where Gally says when she's beating the Borok, oh, there's no water here, but there is moisture, so therefore I can use it.
Right.
Well, that's the other thing. Of the rules of the elements change multiple times in the series.
Absolutely.
Like in the second comic, Lewa, however we've decided to say his name, says that he can't create air, and so like swimming underwater is a problem for him. And then fast forward a couple of years, oh yeah, whatever, you just create your element, it's all good.
You're surrounded by oxygen.
It's like they didn't understand how these characters would work until 2 seconds after they decided, I need this power, I'm going to make them do this now. It's like the Toa Nova Blast altogether, which that's definitely getting covered.
Whoa, I forgot. Oh no, that's not.
We're covering that today.
Nova Blast, yeah, we'll talk about it. But I mean, I don't think that consistency was ever really going to happen anyway. Because I mean, we were having this discussion over a chat the other day. Like, we have all these different mass powers, and some of these mass powers very specifically have some like built-in weaknesses, which is a very sci-fi writer thing to do. But some of them just don't. Some of them are just the way they are. Like strength, there's no real limitation. You're just super strong all of a sudden.
Or even shielding. It's like, I want to be able to protect myself from anything that's in front of me that I can see, and I'm fully aware of it.
Right, but then that has the built-in weakness of, but that means I can get attacked from behind. Speed and strength don't really have those built-in weaknesses. So that consistency just doesn't exist in the first place.
See, at that point, if I were Onua, I would have literally just created an entire dome of earth around yourself. That would have worked better.
Did he never do that? I feel like that was done.
No.
He just decided to rely on the mask of shielding.
Kohatsu makes a dome of earth or stone. Oh. See? Oh. See how easy it is?
See? There it is. But those are primary elements. It only gets more complicated.
Yeah, it does.
It does. But anyway, we should move on to the secondary stuff. So after 2000...
sorry. I was going to say, what counts as a secondary element? Like, is light a secondary element?
Technically, what we're looking at here is the most commonly seen elements from the Torn universe, and more specifically, what we count as the primary are fire, air, earth, water, stone, and ice. These are the 6 that were in what is it, Metro Nui, and then Matanui by extension. This is every single set had these as far as the main canister sets up to about, I would say, the Stars is the only one that broke from tradition.
That one broke a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, no, I guess no. 2008 kind of broke from tradition. Well,
Glatorian didn't have any elemental powers anywhere. Or they didn't start off with elemental powers.
2008 kind of started the break of the tradition because they did a split 3-3 villain and hero series. And then 2009 kind of broke with tradition by changing all of the elements. And then, 2010, technically, can we consider them canisters? They came in canisters.
But, like, even with that, it was always in groups of 6, in the 6 primary colors, quote-unquote. You've got red, blue, green, black, white, and then whatever we want to make stone this year.
Yes.
Orange,
orange, gray, brown.
Gunmetal gray.
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
My personal favorite was the yellow because Huki is probably one of the better Toa of stone.
I mean, I do like that Greg wrote in that Huki actually felt self-conscious about his armor changing color. That was, I think, one of the better meta moments.
I mean, I would have preferred that they just made different characters if they're just going to make them look completely different. Like,
right.
Make new people. If they
don't
maintain any of their previous characterizations, they don't really talk about things that we know them for, and they don't even look like what they used to look like. What value was added by keeping those names? Maybe this is a subject for something else.
Yeah, we could talk about
saving money on legal fees for confirming the names.
I mean, not wrong.
That was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So in 2003, we officially got introduced to at least 6 brand new elements that were not seen before. I mean, technically 7 if you Yeah, well, 7 and 8, technically, if you count the latter half. But we'll start with the beginning, which was where we introduced to the Borok Call. Now, prior to that in 2002, we already had the Borok, and they had the primary elements, which that's fine.
Except for acid.
Except for acid.
Oh, no. Acid. We forgot about that.
Acid is also technically not an element. We do not list it as an element. We list it as, I think, officially we list it as a power.
Yeah, we do.
Power. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing with the Borok Call. Like, I never, like, when I was reading that, living through that storyline the first time, I never interpreted those as elements. Like, I just interpreted them as like, oh, this is just special Borok powers, not on the same level as what the Toa could do.
Right.
But when did that is that a line that really got drawn, or is it something we had to kind of figure out along the way?
Well, I mean, 2003 at the same time, not necessarily at the same time, but it then introduced light with a Toa. So the idea that Toa could be more than 6 elements, expanded out. I don't remember when the first non-primary Toa element was introduced, even though
it
was a
was
trivia question
Sonics.
on our Facebook page. There you go. Krakua.
Yes, with Krakua.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Everything. Krakua sort of destroyed all of canon, in my opinion. Hot take. Krakua was the worst. Absolutely the worst. First of all, he introduced new elements. And like Sonics is not the worst element to introduce. You could have lots of sound-based powers. Sure, that's great. It really complicates things when all of the Borok Call powers, except for vacuum, can now be Toa powers, because plasma and fire, that's basically what this whole podcast is about. Plasma and fire are the exact same thing. But yeah, that wrecks it. And then he's got this Kanohi mask that's in the shape of a How, but in with the powers of a Suletu. You're like, okay, so mask shapes don't mean anything. So why did I spend all this money collecting the different mask shapes if it doesn't mean anything?
Oh, it does get even worse, because if you think about it, another element that we were introduced later on, much later, is psionics.
Yeah.
So what's the point
You
in
can blame
element
Aramis for that
mask?
one. That one was,
The elements of the mind.
We will go down every single element and explain why it does or does not exist. There's not that many to go through. 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 10 secondary elements listed officially on BS01.
At that speed?
Those are, and I'll start with the minor ones first, and then we'll work our way to the big ones. So we have Sonics, Gravity, Plasma, Magnetism, the Green, Lightning, Iron, Psionics, and then Shadow and Light.
I hate the name The Green so much.
Thank you.
So much. Is that a reference to comics? It's so
Just
It
call
is
it
the
plant
reference
life.
to DC Comics. Every time they refer to plant life in DC Comics, more specifically Swamp Thing, it is the green. Much like how water, marine life is the blue. Much
Let's
like
be real.
how
A lot of really awful decisions that you can point to in the story have some basis in, old school DC or Marvel comics. The fact that Brutaka's squad is the Suicide Squad in all but name.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I forgot that was what they called them.
Yeah. The Federation of Fear, wasn't
The
it?
Federation of Fear, yes.
That's not even a good name.
No.
I mean, it's
Hey,
catchy,
we're the
but it doesn't make
Foff.
any
Nice
sense.
to meet you.
At that point, you just need to have Will Smith come out with a Brutaka mask going, so are we some kind of Federation of Fear or something?
Well, that's good. Somebody should do that.
Oh, I'll probably Photoshop that.
Just put the meme up the day before this goes live.
Oh. Anyway, as we said, Sonics is officially like the first we are introduced to outside of as a Toa, but officially the first 6 we were introduced to were Sonics, Gravity, Plasma, Magnetism, Lightning, and Vacuum.
Oh, vacuum.
Well, vacuum
Levoc-
also gets really messed up because they, further retconning, now that eventually the Toa were able to absorb their element. So, like, there's a scene where Vakama absorbs all the heat and make ice. So you could theoretically absorb all the air and make vacuum. So you control your opposite element. But then, like, if Kopaka were to absorb all the cold in a room, does the room catch on fire?
I was about to say, does that mean it's Kopaka, the Toa of Fire? Oh,
uncomfortably
Spirit,
warm.
you were ahead of
that's
the
all.
curve and you just didn't even know it.
That's the element of refrigeration, sir.
But yeah, Vakamo was able to create basically ice by taking all the heat within himself and then like blasting it into the ceiling after he was done.
Yeah, well, I think overall, like, there's just a lot of inconsistency is the big problem, and we're I think part of the hard, the hard part is that we are looking for like a hard magic system, something like the Avatar series has, of like it's very very clear delineation of who can do what and what can happen. Whereas in Bionicle, it's kind of what do I need to defeat this foe of the day?
Avatar is-
Yeah, you can just
yeah.
absorb all the plasma in the room, sure.
Avatar is good and simple, and it leaves room for variance in new ways later on, and that works really well.
I wouldn't mind if, these things were so, floaty up in the air. If so many other things about the series, these hard and fast rules that you can't contradict right up until.
Yeah, that's true. Of either you make it a very hard magic system or you make it a soft magic system. You can't. It's very hard to straddle that line.
Right.
That's very true. The
And
other
so-
thing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to
No,
say,
you
like,
go ahead.
I do appreciate that Greg never said that one character like he was always very anti, like, oh, this character is stronger than this one. This element beats this one. It was very open to, you can overcome any obstacle if you're smart enough with your magic as a Toa.
Now, I hate to contradict you, but there is one specific element that would have destroyed the entire line.
Gravity.
Iron.
Gravity.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to fight back when your entire armor is being stripped from your flesh.
But it's also like their body. Like, well, it's complicated because magnetism was a thing. But like, I get it. Like, iron is like something you can hold, something you can feel. Like, it's like in the Chinese system, you're saying like metal is one of the elements. But when you are made out of metal, that creates a lot of problems. Like in the X-Men movies where Magneto can like pull the iron out of someone's body. That's pretty graphic and disgusting.
Yeah.
It really is.
Like, imagine that in Bionicle. Like that never happens to anyone. It's implied that the Toa of Iron, well, I mean, sort of off screen, they're all assassinated because the fear is that they can use their powers on the Makuta. But like,
Well, they
the
do.
ability to just control other people's flesh, that's horrifying.
They do.
Right.
Why
Why
did
did
you
you
like,
do that?
We-
apart?
I was about to say, we already had that in Avatar as well. We had bloodbending. That was
But, like,
such a taboo thing.
And it's this X-Men, X-Men still acknowledges that Magneto, was OP. He is in this, tier of mutants, right? So you can still have those different flexes as long as you know how to maintain and control the restrictions and the boundaries.
This is true.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing of with the Borak call, their powers seem so much more limited to what the Toa could do. Of like, oh no, your feet are magnetized to the floor. That's all you'll ever see magnetism be used for.
I think I understand why that is, because as they are still Borak, yes, they have an intellectual mind, but that's because the Chronic Call itself.
Well, I mean, I think the way we explain it right now is that they have a power version of the element. So, what the Borakal do for magnetism is different than the Toa's magnetism, because the Borakal can't absorb it. They can't do whatever. Obviously, magnetism is more of a nuisance than anything because they just stuck some Rahi on Pahatu and then walked away.
Well, I mean, like, going back to your example of Pokemon, if you can have a fire type Pokemon that knows a fighting type move, I always interpreted it as like the Toa like are their element. Like, they've got the full control. They have same type attack bonus with their element. Whereas the Borak is just like something that's non-typed using a move. So like, you teach a fire type Pokemon a fighting move. That's like a Borak using the element. Like, it's not supposed to, but it can. It's just not as effective as something that actually is of that type.
Right, though I do have to ask, because you three would probably be more knowledgeable than me. Has there ever been a fire electric type?
No. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Rotom stove. Wait,
Yes.
Rotom.
That one.
Rotom. Is it stove? It's not a stove.
Oven?
Oven?
It's one of them.
Heat Rotom.
It's
Heat.
a microwave.
Heat Rotom.
Heat
This
Rotom,
is such an
okay.
inconsistent system. You got Heat Rotom, Wash Rotom, Frost Rotom, Fan Rotom, Mow Rotom. Some of them are the appliances, and some of them are the actions the appliances do. Can we have like a side podcast talking about this?
We could do a Pokemon
And
podcast.
why
I mean,
does the
I
Heat one
don't
have
mind
oven
going
mitts?
over and discussing Pokemon, but at that point, we're not posting on BS01, and I will allow any
We'll
and
make
all
that one of our
swearing.
Patreon tiers. Enough
Yes.
Why
new
does the
podcast
Frost
just
one
talking
have
about
piggy
Pokemon.
tails for art? What's
I'll be
going
more than
on?
happy to come in and be the mediator, because I really don't know any of it, other than Mewtwo is still one of the greatest of all time, but only in the trading card.
Sorry, off track.
Yes.
But yeah, sorry. Back to Sonics. I had this headcanon for Sonics when it was revealed because at that point in 2005, when Krakua is introduced to the story, we know about only 7 other Toa elements. He is the first non-core element character.
Correct.
So as far as we knew, there are only 6 types of Matoran. And for whatever reason, Takua Atamatoran had turned into this Toa of Light. We didn't know about the Av Matoran. It was just this is just a one-off. Maybe the Mask of Light is so powerful it overrides the element. Who knows? But Krakua shows up, and now it's complicated. So in my headcanon, Sonics was like a subset or like an upgraded version of air, because what is sound but it's vibrating air. So I
That's
thought that you
true.
could like train as a Toa of air to just be to control sound as like a secondary thing, similar to how like fire produces light. So Takua was just like an upgraded Toa of fire.
I have to also mention, thinking about it backwards, so the original Parok, what was its official element / ability?
Plasma. Oh no,
No,
you
no,
mean
that's the original.
rock.
Yeah. But here's
Stone,
the thing.
rock, whatever.
It didn't do rock. It created seismic activity to basically dismantle rock.
Seismic activity like an earthquake.
Dun dun dun.
Or perhaps it used sound waves?
It's almost
Oh.
like these weird delineations were just there from the start.
Yeah, name all the elements that can cause an earthquake. Go on.
Yo mama.
Oh,
At that point, I
Oh,
mean,
snap.
tectonic shifts and all that stuff. That is an interesting point. Did Matsunui have a tectonic plate? I don't think it did.
No. It
Maybe Aquamagna did?
well, probably.
It had a face under it. It was probably
Oh,
really
no,
annoying
but
to have
in-
earthquakes.
In Legends of Matsunui, they mention a bioquake. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that's referenced to. Why it's a bioquake?
Really? I don't
Obviously,
even
because they're not on
remember that.
Earth.
Because they're not
About
Earth.
it, we got the shivers.
Maybe they refer to bio because they knew at the time that they were in the Great Spirit. I don't know. I can imagine that being common knowledge back in the day. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, greetings. We are within the Great Spirit. How are you today?
wasn't bio one of the measurements? There's bio, Kyo, and Mayo, or
Yeah,
maybe
bio,
Kyo, and Mio.
yeah,
I don't even know how you
Kyo,
pronounce
Mio.
those.
Ooh.
That was. We could go on and on about everything on another topic like that. Just all of the all the different language things, very language specific, because that's a whole subject we could go into. But no, I'm specifically referring to the fact that we had earthquakes, which we've come to find out are actually more Onua's range from Mask of Light. He was using the ability to create an earthquake to knock the walls down or the ceiling down.
To move the rocks.
Almost as if both of them could have done it at any time, and it was really... I want to use colorful language now.
It was
Do it.
What?
Do it.
Why did I have to put a ban on swearing?
You didn't.
okay.
You can just undo it. It's easy. There, it's undone.
Future me, I'm sorry for all the work I have to do. Why is this all bullshit? And anyway, I mean, the other thing is with the lightning, since we're going to move around and bounce around for a minute, with the Tenok Call, all he ever used lightning for is to just electrocute somebody and put him in a force field thing.
That was really weird. I never understood that, and I still
I'm
don't.
about to I'm about to mess you up even more. Y'all know what lightning is, right?
Plasma?
It's plasma.
Yep. Why are they two separate things?
Well, plasma is just a big problem. Like, so what they should have made it. I don't even know.
Plasma is
Magma.
basically air.
Yeah, I guess it
and
should have been
it's
magma.
gas. It's electrified.
But because all they ever use it for is melting things. Like,
Yeah,
because if it
but
were
magma
actually
would be a
plasma,
completely broken one too, because all that is stone as well, or earth actually.
Happened.
well, except Dorek eventually can control magma.
He can't control. Only
yeah.
his spear can do it.
Only a spear, and
Oh.
technically the same with Oh no, never mind. I thought it was lava gun or whatever, the magma launcher.
Well, no. So the two of the Paraka create a Titan, don't they? By combining their, I can't even remember whether it was stone or whether it was earth and fire.
Stone and fire.
Probably
Stone and fire. Okay.
But there's another problem of like, why can the Paraka make a walking, seemingly living, this puppet made out of lava? None of the Toa can do that.
I mean, this
It's
is
a
related,
weird
but they have
scene.
so many
Maybe they just
powers.
haven't been
so
trying.
unnecessary.
Or, like, I like the idea of you have to get these characters that don't want to work together, and this unlocks new elemental combinations. I thought that was an interesting take, but the Paraka, you could have just left it at that. We would have been fine.
I would be okay. Part of it is the Skakti were able to use these elemental powers when they combined together. It's possible that that's just one of the things when they were experimenting on it. It's like, I just want you to do something crazy, so I'm going to give you the ability to do that. Well,
Yeah,
what's
but I mean,
that?
they were
You'll find out.
completely overpowered no matter what. Because I mean, obviously, so you have that elemental power, which I think was more of a concession to be like, all right, so we have these characters who aren't Toa, but they kind of are, and that's why we're showing them now. So they sort of have the elements, but they sort of don't. But then they also have an eye beam power because their eyes light up. But then they also have a third power on that.
And a fourth power.
Yeah. But keep in mind also, the reason why I think it was decided this would work is because technically they don't get along at all.
It's just a lot to remember is the hard part.
Kind of helped with their personalities just all clashing all the time. Like, their whole design was just clashing with each other.
But that's the thing. They used to be a peaceful race. That's the funny part. It'd be like dropping a hand phaser into the Klingon homeworld and be like, look, first person to get to that's going to survive. Are you going to be the last one to grab it?
We probably do a whole podcast about needlessly convoluted backstories of things, but...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's basically what this podcast is.
That's what the wiki is.
So, let's see. We already touched base on... We already touched base on the lightning and some magnetism, how it was not utilized.
Oh, here's a trivia question. I don't even know the answer to this. What was after Psionics was introduced as an element, what was the next one?
So the green appeared in a
Legacy of Evil.
Legacy of Evil, but I believe there was plasma reference before that in one of the Paraka novels.
Yeah, there was a plasma Toa mentioned by...
Who got eaten,
essentially.
I think it was,
right,
Avak talking about Zaktan.
Right, and apparently he ate the Toa or something?
But then maybe he survived after all? I can't remember what Greg said. It was
I like to think
it was one of those off-screen violence moments.
Yeah.
Like, it never happened. Zaktan was like, I'm so
indiscriminate murder that isn't real.
I mean, I appreciated the turn to unnecessary violence and dark, just visually. I thought it made for a fascinating, year, but in terms of the novels, it didn't do it a favor.
Oh, edgy teenager Chols loved that series.
So, the miscellaneous Toa that we have listed, which have various powers, I'm sure. There was the Toa that was imprisoned by the Brotherhood of Makuta and forced by Mutran to use the Kanohi Rao to communicate with the Blade Bearers. Now deceased. Unknown.
What? I don't remember.
I'm on the other Toa page.
Where did this appear?
Mutron Chronicles Chapter 3.
That was 2008. That was much later.
That's when everything...
Yeah, 2008 is where I kind of drop off.
Right. I'm just going down the list. I'm not necessarily going up based on chronological order.
Yeah,
Then
but
we've already touched base on the Toa Plasma. Then there's another Toa of Psionics that was also
so wait,
killed by
hold on.
Baraka.
When was that the Zactan 8 or whatever? When which book was that?
Island of Doom.
That was okay. So that was the very first one. So that's
Yeah.
all right. So
Right.
there's your.
There's
next
also
one.
there's also a Toa Gravity that was killed by Lariska, which must have been in 2005
Oh,
because
Oh,
that was when
yeah.
we started talking about her. In
snap!
fact, yeah, that was in Time
No,
Trap
no.
when she was talking to.
Oh, was that Time Trap? That was Time Trap. You're right.
So that
yeah,
was number 2.
because she had just
Okay.
come back from
There you
the
go.
mission.
So while we're on the subject of gravity, I've got a bone to pick. Greg often would say that like he doesn't want gravity to be in the series. Like gravity would be too powerful. It
is.
wouldn't though. Like you just make it not powerful, not that powerful. Like if plasma could create literally the sun, well, that would be overpowered. If magnetism could magnetize all your atoms, or like tear apart the magnetism that's holding them together, like that would be overpowered. Just don't make it overpowered. It's easy. Just don't do it.
Here's a fun way to limit that. Your power over gravity is only exponential to your own weight and your own gravity. So the size of the being using it can only control so much.
Right, or like there's only a limit to how much gravity you can add or take away. Like you obviously couldn't make a black hole because that would be too much power. Maybe
it's
if
just
you did
physically
Too much
beyond
power,
you
and
would
then
die.
with the Hawking radiation, you wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't last very long. Yeah, but then again, introducing a quantum singularity into somebody's sternum is probably going to hurt.
I feel like
So
Even if it only
speaking of
lasts
too much
for-
power, should we talk about no blasts?
oh no,
Ah,
here it comes.
I don't know. What are people's takes on where was the Nova Blast even anymore?
Well, in 2003, there was something called a Nova Blast in the video game.
Oh no,
Which is
Bionicle,
different
the
to a
game does
Nova
not
Blast.
count.
yes, the first, I think the official
Everything
Nova
is
Blast
canon.
we ever almost had would have been with Gali. She was going to release one, and then I think Tahu released one at
But
one point.
that's 2007 already, right? Well, no, Galley
Right.
does 2007, and then Joller the year is about to release one and doesn't. Where does the first concept first get mentioned? Right?
The Nova Blast was first acknowledged in the non-canon Bionicle the game as a Nova Blast. Greg
Okay.
Farshty later confirmed that the Nova Blast is canon.
Okay.
But like you can just spam them as Gali. I don't know if you played that game recently. You can just like you just
Can
collect
you? I
yes,
have not played
collect
in a while.
4
Recently.
energy orbs and you just like go ham.
It's,
Right.
Brilliant.
What's it called? The hero mode from the 2006 game of Dare 2, where you just turn gold and nothing can touch you.
I mean, that's
Okay,
like
yeah.
real
Oh.
life. If you are golden, if you got lots of cash, nothing can touch you. It's great.
Oh, I picked up tons of blue Lego bricks. I've got a lot of money by those game standards.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, okay, I was misremembering all the events. So it was Gali unleashing the Water Nova Blast in Karzani. I thought it was Tahu releasing his, but no, it was Gali. And then you're right, it was Joller that was going to unleash his, but did not.
Which was an interesting. I guess it's a new interesting thing of like, okay, well, any of the Toa characters can now blow up. It added to an interesting element of tension, but now that you think about it, like with water, everything is covered in water. With fire, everything is hit by fire. What do the other elemental Nova Blasts look like? Like Earth. Does everything get hit by a big earthquake? Or stone? Does everything just get coated in stone?
I mean, okay, so what I
I
would
guess
interpret
with Earth elevation just like increases by a couple inches just everywhere.
right. With Earth, I would say, yeah, maybe it would be just a giant bioquake with a magnitude of, let's say, 6. Why not? And as for stone, I mean, could it just be he blasts a crap load of sand everywhere?
Sand is its own element, though. Because what would
Okay,
a Nova
but not
Blast
in the
sand
Matorn.
look like?
Not in the Torn universe. He has the ability to control. Well, no, wait. It was Liwa that was controlling the sand using air.
Right.
That's a
another
whole
one.
different subject. But no, there is officially no sand in the Matorn universe. It's just the one element they do not go there.
Although, according to the Nova Blast page, if a Glatorian is given elemental power by Matanui, they can perform a Nova Blast. So if you gave what are the Voroks? The power they could. I don't know. I don't know.
They could conquer the world.
If
They could make Anakin Skywalker very upset.
Yes. Right. But like when Matanui was giving them their powers, did he only gave them their powers based on what he thought was their element, right? So it's not like every fire Glatorian, because the Glatorian can be of any tribe. So like he could have given Gresh some fire powers, and he could have given Akar some water powers. Like it didn't have to be anybody.
Well,
just
no.
like, you're red.
In the movie,
That's
if I
racial
recall-
profiling.
Yeah. In the movie, as I recall, it was Matanui said, "Of course, fire is your natural element. The fire was always in within you. It's just now been brought out or whatever."
But didn't that turn out to be, I swear, but didn't that turn out to be bull?
Yes, well, that's the thing. That's the crazy thing. In the movie, which apparently Greg wrote but never saw, in the movie they explain that the powers work in this way, and then Greg is like, "No, they don't work in this way." And we never see any of the characters again, so it didn't matter at all.
Oh my god.
But then they broke the same rules with the Mask of Light, where they had Liwa picking up Tahu's sword and the fire worked somehow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's
The
so
fire
it's
was in his
broken
heart all
everywhere.
along, Swert.
So Kopaka could have picked up Tahu's sword and burned stuff.
Yeah. Well, even that scene didn't make any sense. Like, how does, oh yeah, cross the swords and use your healing magic, and let's redo the same tired plot line where one of us gets infected and we have to cure them. Only somehow we know how to deal with poison, which is different than an infected mask. Could have just made an infected mask.
That was the other thing too.
We
Like
had the Crata. We could have done it.
often
Right?
and the poison was like a physical poison. It was like leaves dying, the ground, you can't touch the ground and all that. Sudden it's like a psychological, a spiritual poison. That
But no, just stab him in the face and all of a sudden now he's poisoned.
Well, I mean, the big problem was that they weren't thinking large scale. Like having a mask of water breathing is like a waste of everything. You could have made it like a mask of healing, of like, that's got multiple applications. Instead, the only healing we get are a Kanoka of remove poison and then a Rotuka of healing. Like, sorry if you need first aid in the Matoran universe, you're gonna die. It's just
No, you're going to
dumb.
Karzani.
Example, because
You're going to
like,
Karzani.
the mask of water breathing basically caused all other like elemental like Galmatoran or anything with the water element to not be able to breathe underwater, and just because that exists, like that is the level of like walls that get backed into because of how over the ridiculous amount of powers in this universe.
well. That's
Anyway,
the
we are
thing
well off topic.
because all the
Yes.
Matoran have low level elemental powers.
That's a whole different subject to talk about.
Oh, we're on so many subjects now. Sorry, there's no going back.
I suppose, we could talk about the Matoran having theirs. Actually, no, that is a good one to bring up because
It's relevant,
Do
I
you-
think.
I would
do
say it's
you
relevant.
remember? Yeah, it's relevant. Do you
It's
remember
not Pokemon.
who got the short end of the entire stick
All of them.
when it comes to all of the Matoran in the Matoran universe?
Is
Oh,
it
is
the
there a
Matoran
convenient
of Gravity who
Oh,
can apparently only like point north or something?
What is that a thing?
No, this is the thing. This is the thing. Somebody go read the
I'm going
Bomb
over
page.
to the Matoran. Hang on.
Matoran manifests its
So-
resistance to extreme pressure. That's pretty bad.
Oh wait, no, that's
Okay.
Gravity. Sorry, the
Bomb-Matoran are Matoran of magnetism. They have an internal
no,
compass. and a
Bomb-Matoran
better
are
sense of direction.
Gravity.
Famatoran.
No.
Matoran?
Bomb-Matoran. Oh yeah, sure, because there's
Bomb-Matoran, yeah.
Fa!
But no, the ones that have the real problem are the Matoran. Very acute hearing and thus prefer to live in quiet regions.
Yeah.
Very
That's true.
acute.
That's just awful because now it's like everything is loud for you, kind of like my terrible microphone.
I wonder if maybe that's why they gave Kukua the Suleto in the first place. Maybe he just doesn't like talking because it hurts.
Yeah, like I get for the, like in the scene, I can't remember what's happening, but like they get hit by a stun grenade. Like that's the whole point of them having that power, is that so that you can take out the whole village. For the purposes of that scene, great, fine, whatever. Where it's like debilitating, that kind of like puts them at a huge disadvantage to the other types of Matoran, where I think the assumption is that all elements are kind of more or less equal. And when some of them have like really useful applications and others have like really worthless ones, like where's the equality?
There is no equality.
I mean, the Matoran should have been resistant to Psionics or to like Sonics. Since everybody else is resistant to their own ability.
Is that not a good argument for the fact that they are, like primary versus secondary? The primaries get all the cool powers, some of the secondaries just get shafted.
Well, I mean, no, because lightning, all of the Matoran of lightning have resistance to electric shock.
Because that happens a lot.
Apparently,
each other for fun.
Matoran of plasma have their power manifests as eye protection against bright lights. And the ability to resist extreme heat.
That's useful. You could just stare at the sun, or rather the sun hole, and just be like, haha, I will defeat you.
I can look at that solar eclipse.
But I mean, that's the thing of like, what
moon do we have?
What is the Tamatoran's special ability? They're also resistant to heat. So
they are very resistant to heat.
So plasma and fire, it's the same. It's the exact same.
Yes.
Plasma was a mistake.
That is the thesis of this show. It's just that, plasma sucks.
That's the title.
Also, no, actually, I guess technically the Matoran get the short end, too. They have great agility and speed in tall structures, but they're clumsy and awkward on solid ground.
Is that?
I don't know. I kind of like that.
That's what they're listed as.
They're nimble and can swing around in trees, and then when they're on the ground, they're like, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Trees.
Okay, so for Pomatoran, their ability is increased strength.
Yeah, like Manua.
But
so the Matoran must be the fastest runners ever.
No, but I mean, hold on. So like, speaking of Onomatoran, like, hold on, let me go read their
ability
again.
is night vision, which doesn't have anything to do with Earth,
and more enhanced strength.
When you're surrounded by nothing but
don't they
limited night
have
vision and enhanced strength?
Day vision, or am I?
On the Earth page, it says enhanced night vision, but I think you're right. In the
so on the other page, it says normally stay underground. They are uniquely adept at darkness, but averse to sunlight, which can easily blind them. So I'm assuming that came from somewhere.
I guess you could say that like Matoran like traits by element are mostly related to like traits that help them to live in their element, except for Famatoran. They're just screwed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, though. Of like, it's a big deal in the first couple of years of Bionicle that stone characters can't swim. And then,
true.
Why didn't they just make that their special ability? Of like, they're just more dense. They're just heavier than the other Matoran.
Well, certainly, yeah, because that's what they gave to the Matoran of Iron, the Fey Matoran. They're said to be more physically endurant than other types of Matoran.
They get rustier easier.
Or like give them the ability to like have masterful carving. Like Michelangelo famously said that he sees the angel in the marble, he's just setting it free. Like if that was their thing of like, it talks about Pohatu can see like the fracture lines and things. Sure, that makes sense.
This is true.
Enhanced strength? That doesn't make any sense.
I actually would go more with actually agility more than anything. Similar to the Matoran with their great agility in the air. I would do great agility with them because that would make them perfect sports players.
I guess, but like the other complicated thing, because here's the other like inconsistency we have to deal with is like the characters of Onua and Pohatu are very poorly defined. Like they are the most background of the main characters. Like I think Greg said somewhere that Pohatu is supposed to be like the Thing from Fantastic Four. So like this slow moving, like it's clobbering time type guy. But like he can move really quickly. So that kind of like now he's like all powerful. And then like Onua is supposed to be like this wise guy. Like just very wise, very quiet, very, down to earth. But like you see him as this really tough guy because he's got like the mask of strength. Like it's all very inconsistent.
Well, but I mean, those things would make sense. Again, like it's this whole balancing act. It would make sense if Pohatu was supposed to be a super slow lumbering guy, but had access to the Mask of Speed and didn't really know what to do with it. It would make sense if Onu was supposed to be shy, quiet, and reserved, but had the Mask of Strength and had to use it. Same with Tahu being a hothead and being an attacker, but then has a Mask of Shielding. These contradictions make sense.
I'm on board.
Yeah, but then you have Gally, whose element is water, and she can breathe underwater because of her mask, which somehow isn't a power of what she can do. So
she's supposed to have endurance underwater anyway, naturally.
Yeah, you've also got Liwa, whatever, who can fly with the air, but he also has the mask of levitation. And then straight up as a Toanuva, he's got wings. He uses his swords as wings, and that's good enough. And then you've got X-ray vision. ...
X-ray.
Yes, with the power to look underneath somebody's clothing, I guess.
Which is really useful to have X-ray vision when you're flying and need to see what's in front of you as opposed to through it.
Well, here's the other thing of the X-ray vision doesn't work in Cardanui because he can't see through the mists. Excuse me. What?
The one time you would expect to be able to see something, and it's just all backscattered. Figure that one out.
Imagine they do an X-ray scan on your heart, and they're like, "We can't see it. There's too much mist."
If you've got too much mist in your heart, kids, please go see a doctor or
stop playing 90s computer games.
Yes. All right. Anyway, going back to the other thing, the two subjects we haven't even touched base yet on were light and shadow.
So we're calling those secondary elements?
Yeah, those are also secondary.
They are also considered secondary because they're not part of the quote-unquote the big ones.
Okay.
They're kind of secondary in that they serve a completely different purpose, I guess.
And we haven't even touched the green yet.
I don't want to talk about
or Psionics. Oh, should we touch those first?
We probably should.
So, I will defend the green as far as not necessarily the name, but the power of at least have the ability to, work with them because great.
Life calls.
Nope. That was our timer.
Oh.
We've literally run through at least 50 minutes of this already.
I'm having fun.
We've had a lot to talk about. Maybe we should just make this the extra long episode.
Sure.
Yep.
Let me throw another 20 minutes on.
We can keep going. I'll tell you what we haven't gotten to is the protodermic cage yet, but I'm saving that.
Oh yeah. All right. 20 minutes left on the clock. We are going.
We'll come back to that one later.
We could probably do a whole episode on protodermis.
Yeah, I agree with that because there are so many properties.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
what were you saying?
We're going with jungle, plant life, the green, whatever you want to call it. Creating plant life, controlling plant life, absorbing plant life. What?
I like that one.
Absorbing plant life.
I love absorbing plant. It's a funny.
Hang on while I inhale this tree.
I'm going to take this tree branch, throw it in my body. Why?
And
I love it, but at the same time, why? Does that mean, literally the Toa of the Green can just eat wood and immediately get more power?
I mean,
well, here's the thing. We never see an earth character or a stone character just absorbing all the ground or all the rocks. That would be such a useful thing to do of I absorbed the ground under you. You're now going to fall 20 feet.
Right.
And I unabsorbed the ground. Goodbye.
Or of course, one has to wonder, if literally everything is made of protodermis, and a toe of iron can absorb protodermis, isn't a plant life also absorbing protodermis then? And
well,
it might be one of those things that the divide happens at the molecular level. Oh boy, here we go. Because if the water and the ice and the stone are all of the same scientific element, not throwing out. If we have a scientific element in the periodic table of elements called protodermis, if they're all made from that, and the only way to explain why the different Toa can't control everyone's element, the only explanation is that, at the molecular level, they're different. So, the structure of water is different to or when it's frozen in ice, it's different to what it is in stone.
Well,
otherwise,
there is some subject here, or there is some precedent there. If you think about it, the Toe of Water can still use water no matter where they are. I mean, Nakama was able to manipulate their water, which was liquid protodermis, and then get up onto the island of Matanui, and she's like, this is not the water we're used to. This is something else, but I can still use it.
I think that's going to go into the protodermis episode of like,
Oh, yeah.
What? Excuse me?
We have to go into that discussion later. Absolutely. But yeah, it goes back to what you were saying there. Now, I do know for a fact that you could still make ice underwater. We saw that with Motoro freezing the Makuta controlled Maxilo spot, and that ice was completely solid in a completely different subject.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that ice sinks when normal ice floats.
Yes. Well, I mean, I would imagine it's probably anchored to the ground at that point, but still.
No, it talks about like the things he freezes like sinking down, and then people are like, "Yo, Greg, that's not how ice works," and he's like, "Magic."
I thought of that.
Denser than water.
Although I did look into this, if you make it very cold, ice becomes more dense and will sink in water. So there's your cop out.
Yes. Or maybe just Greg is I'm not going to answer the rest of that.
I can't reveal a future storyline.
The things he's freezing are also heavy, right? So, but I don't know. It's less that he's, the ice is sinking rather than he has stopped the movement of something and that thing is heavy.
Right.
I guess
I just want to go down the list. So we've talked about Psionics, we talked about gravity, we talked about plasma. We didn't really touch too much with magnetism, other than you could just stick people to things.
Yeah, magnetism and iron, though, really complicated.
Too similar.
You can, because I assume the Toa have some limited form of telepathy over their element, kind of like in Avatar, which is all telepathy. So that they can control the element telepathically, they can also create it or absorb it. With magnetism, you can control anything a Toa of iron can do. That's like just another inconsistency. Like, you didn't.
Also, are you able to absorb magnetism? Are you able to take away the magnetism of something?
I guess, but I mean, there's the other thing of like, what is magnetism? Like, is it just ferromagnetism or like?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the fundamental. Exactly.
It does go right back to what we were saying. Is a Toa of lightning and a Toa of plasma two different things? Because lightning is plasma, or could a Toa of air do all this stuff within combination of a Toa of fire?
Yeah. Secondary elements were a bit of a mistake. Like, keep lightning, keep Sonics, keep plant life. I don't know.
Maybe that's what we should do. Is we should stop and talk about what elements are we going to get rid of? What elements are we keeping?
Iron, kick it.
Oh, but then even magnetism gets used. I mean, early on it gets used more creatively, like sticking things to things. But then I remember doesn't Botar get killed by magnetism, having his thing crushed, and it's like, well, what is the difference between that and iron, or that and gravity?
And
or
just crushing them with a stone.
Yeah,
it's like pick a boulder up and crush them.
I guess it's different pathways to the same result. Maybe. Similar to how you can like start a fire with a match, you can start a fire with a lighter. I guess I don't know.
It's using chemicals versus using
much.
But I mean, at least magnetism has the distinction of, I think, having the only other Toa, I guess we're not including Krakua, who had an official set representation of the secondary elements.
Oh yeah, the Toa with like the totally normal human name.
Well, there is also Takanuva with light, but that's
we'll leave light and shadow out for a second.
Yeah. Also, we still haven't even touched the last one yet, Psionics. This is the one that really breaks everything.
Oh no!
Where is Erebus? I want to hurt him.
Groan.
Bring him in here.
Was this his fault?
Yes, this was absolutely his fault. He was the one who created came up with everything and then proposed it to Greg, and Greg was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
He signed out. He already signed off. We can't go after him.
Oh no, I love Erebus, but also I hate him.
Right. Well, there's literally 4 Crata already based around Psionics.
Well, this is the other thing of when the Makuta were introduced and the Crata, he had the Borak Call powers. And as far as we knew, Makuta was not connected to the Borak Call. He's still not connected to them. It's kind of weird that he has those powers. And now that we know that those are some of the elements that Toa just not Toa that we know. Why doesn't he control the other elements?
That is a good point. He should have had control. He should have been able to make his own protodermis cage. He's literally sitting there with like 42 Roxy powers, and at least 2 of them are related to the elements.
Yeah, but so, I mean, that goes back to, kind of this weird fundamental distinction, like, between what can do and what literally everybody else can do. Everybody else just has a power. They can just do certain things with it. Toa have the element.
Yeah, well, I guess I like they do and then they don't. Like, Makuta is hands down the most overpowered fictional character to exist.
Petition to do an entire episode on Roxy abilities.
Yeah.
That'll take forever. We need it.
Hold on. What about Takuta Nuba?
Oh my gosh.
No,
we're not going there.
Stop.
But like so many of his powers are redundant, they're overpowered, and then it's like, well, we just assume that whatever the Roxy have, that maximum, like the description of like whatever a level 6 Krata has, that is the maximum that Makuta has.
Yes.
Well, yes and no, but like he can like read people's minds and incept ideas into their brains, and he can shapeshift into whatever he needs, and he can turn into a tornado of darkness with giant eyes. Like, it's just whatever the story needs.
Yeah. Well, but even then, like, his shapeshifting thing was like, so what the Makuta can do with shapeshifting is different than the Roxy of shapeshifting, even though that's one of their powers.
Right.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. So there are at least 2 different types of control for Krata and Roxy. The Roxy of Rahi control and the Roxy of insect control.
Oh my gosh, I hate that so much.
Wait. Oh no. Stop.
And then there's still a Roxy of mind reading. Like, why is there a Roxy of mind reading?
To tell you your fortune.
Right? Like, the original Roxy, that kind of made sense. They were, relatively speaking, opposites of everything that the Toa did. Anger, disintegration, heat vision, or, not heat vision. That's different.
What even
that
is
wasn't
what
Roxy,
is
but still.
The difference between fragmentation and disintegration, even within the Roxy. Come on, guys.
It's fragmentation, but smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what
disintegration is literally disintegration, but fragmentation is like...
Explosion. They should have called it explosion. Fragmentation.
They should have. You're right.
They should have. You're right. Roxy explosion. Anyway,
we have to do
a
Roxy episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
but we're gonna have to definitely finish off.
Another thing. Two things to talk about. Number one, Toa Anika, who have electricity in their element. That doesn't get explained.
It's not elemental electricity, it's elemental entwined electricity.
Yeah. But
so
it doesn't even matter in the end. Like, because when Matoro needs to make this bed of snow for Axon to lay on, like, Axon doesn't get mysteriously or, accidentally electrocuted. He just lands in this nice soft bed of snow. Get out of here.
Right.
But, like, so
maybe if you're literally going to... Not.
Yeah, right. But, like, if you're literally going to write something that involves him using his power in such a way that you've pretty given this thing, why did you even bother with it?
You know what? The only way they could have copped out would be like, well, Axon is immune to electricity. That's the only way they could have copped out.
It should have also been that the Paraka are weak to electricity. Like, that was what the Toa Nuva were missing. If they only had some electricity in their elemental powers.
Let's be honest.
It literally never gets brought up again.
The reason why they had to say, oh, they have electricity intertwined with their elements is because they were selling the toy.
And the strobe
thingy. And
it was a beautiful idea, but man, is it annoying.
And it gave people seizures.
Why lightning? It doesn't. That's not what a strobe light is. It should have just been like it's intertwined with light, or like they can only shoot the energy version of their
Toa
power.
Of the rave.
Yeah.
So Jaller is now a Toa of lasers. And
and then also, they
lasers, but liquid.
Thought the Anika's faces, the set pieces, were going to be glow in the dark, and then that didn't actually happen either.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But like, they should have just made it glow in the dark. Like, it's glow in the dark plastic. We've had that since the dawn of time.
Right.
They had it earlier in the year with the
Paraka. We definitely need to wrap up with the light and shadow. These are the last two.
Oh, can't
Yeah.
do the protodermis cage?
Okay, well,
Elements combine to make the cage?
No.
We'll save that for the protodermis episode, please,
Oh, okay.
because that's a whole different doozy.
okay, with light and shadow, like, what's the deal with those Kanohi? Like, the Mask of Light does not give elemental light powers. It, like, does other stuff.
Well, it also gives elemental light powers.
But, like, if you already are a Toa of Light, why would you wear the Mask of Light? It doesn't
I don't
make
know.
sense.
It makes extra rainbows.
So, what I do like about Light is some of the extra abilities that was added later on, such as
Yes.
being able to use it to create, let's say, a hologram, or actually creating laser, and then some of the other exclusives turning oneself into light, such as Umbra. That was
Well, it
actually
was mentioned
really
that, Takanu was experimenting with like, moving at faster than light speed or whatever. Then,
Right.
Photok, when connected to Pahatu, could do that. I think. It was
Right.
them.
It's nice that Takanuva
It's
can
not
do
listed on the
some of
wiki
that.
here. What's the deal?
What?
Increased speed.
Citation.
Oh no,
needed.
that's under the.
No,
Page
moving
of
as
light.
fast as light. Exclusive to Photok and Umbra. But no, Takanuva, you're right. Is
Wait,
like
Yeah, it
low
was
level-
mentioned that he was experimenting with it because he saw Photok do it. I seem to recall. So,
No. This
Right.
was revealed in the encyclopedia in 2005.
oh,
Oh,
So
I'm up.
even
And it's
before
not
that-
on the wiki. Why am I even part of this website?
Oh jeez.
I'm not even going to edit this page.
I do like that they do list creating solid objects out of light. So essentially, a Toa of Light is a Green Lantern. Only actually no, closer to a White Lantern.
such
Technically,
an unnecessary comics reference. It didn't need to be there.
I am a Lantern fan. I'm sorry.
He just creates big hands out of light.
Okay, so not to go too much off of light and shadow, but I do need to talk about this. Do you wish that they had, like, if they were going to introduce these secondary elements, that they would have at least more characters in the spotlight with these elements?
You know,
Like
I
when
would have rather seen for 2006 if they were going to shoot all of the Matoran with new abilities. I think it would have been interesting to give them different elements,
yeah, no,
like
I agree.
overwrite what they had.
Yeah, I know. I think that's right. If you've done this massive shift already, why not just give them new powers if you're making everything all new and all different?
And that's
And
what
I think it would have been
leading of like, oh, secretly we're going to talk about this character who's got plasma and this character who's got gravity, but we're never going to meet them. Oh, surprise, look, these main characters now have these abilities. Instead, we get more of the same, except it's intertwined with lightning.
exactly.
I think they were, at the end of the day, kind of afraid to stray too far from it. 'Cause, I mean, the same reason Baraka have, these sub-elemental powers that they can only partially access, right? We're afraid
Yeah.
of telling people, no, red does not equal fire, no, green does not equal air, that kind of thing.
So here's what I would have done. I would have made Jaller a Toa of Plasma, so that at least he still had the fire ability.
That one's
And that actually would make a lot of sense because he had the lightning to go with it. It would have been
I would
perfect.
have made it so that in 2008, when they've got the vehicle characters, those should not have been alternate forms of characters you already released that year. It should have been
Wanna
new
buy
Toa
it?
with new elemental powers.
It would have been interesting.
This is Jerry, the Toa of acid.
Or if you were going to do anything, since you already planned to introduce Glatorian the next year, make him Glatorian with the different elements or something. I don't know. That would have been interesting. It would have probably not worked. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but it didn't happen.
I mean, there were already so many Makuta in that year. I feel too
Yeah,
many
that's
characters.
Oh, geez.
Let's see. Kongu would have been amazing as a Toa of Psionics because he had the Suletu.
No, but then we're running into the Takanu Boki problem all over again. Why do you have a mask that is of your power?
Yeah. And what happens if you
double
wear a mask of
power.
your power? Like, well,
Well,
that's
that's
the
the
other thing of like when you start introducing things like the mask of gravity, but Toa of gravity already exist. That like really cheapens their inclusion.
Oh, yeah, Huki had
As
all
I
the
recall,
gravity
the Mask of
powers.
Gravity was actually very limited in what it could do. It could
Right,
just
but-
increase or decrease around, let's just say, a limited target. Let's just say, what,
And that's
5
all
by 5
gravity
tile?
should be. You shouldn't be creating black holes. That's overpowered. That's irresponsible of the great beings to create someone who can create black holes. Like that's obviously not going to work out. How
Did
did
that
the
happen?
universe
I
not
feel like
blow
that
up before?
happened.
It did happen. That's how we lost
Yeah.
Nubak Hall in the first place.
Nubak Hall
Oh, right. He
creates a
became a black hole that
Yeah.
then evaporated because that's how black hole.
Yeah. Well,
but
it is
after
how-
like reducing the gravity on some Tanox so far that they just shot off into space, so it's still kind of overpowered a little bit.
Oh yeah. Just remember, they're still up there somewhere, floating around.
Some
Then
say
again, they
they're still
probably
up there
burned
to
up
this
the
day.
re-entry of Spherus Magna. Actually,
Can we just assume that he just got launched into space when the orbit changed and he just will never be seen again?
Well, yeah, so they were orbiting, right? Because as soon as you hit the at what point does gravity kick back in? Like they don't have any momentum as they're hitting the atmosphere, right? Wouldn't have.
I have to
kept going into
imagine
space.
they probably burned up on leaving the atmosphere more so coming back.
Yeah, probably.
Would they still be in orbit because they were in orbit around Aqua Magna, and that planet doesn't exist anymore?
Well,
that's what
it
I'm
got
saying.
smashed into Makuta's head, so probably not. I would have also made maybe looking at the list. I think I would have made Uparu the total of gravity so that he had a limited ability to turn off gravity, and that way he doesn't need a mask of flight. Change that and make it something different.
Yeah. Well, like with gravity, you can do interesting things, like set the gravity to just be 90 degrees off, and now you can walk up walls, which is what he can do in the Bionicle Heroes video game anyway. Just saying.
Yes.
Ooh, I like
Wouldn't have
the
changed
wall
anything.
walking.
Nice.
Matora would have probably been a Matoran or a Toa of Psionics, or
All because he's
Could we
so
give him something
quiet.
else?
Ah,
Ooh.
this is what they should have done. This is what they wanted to do all along.
See?
All right,
See?
so-
Magnetism, because
she gets headaches.
yes.
No, but she's blue and
You know
white, which is
Then if that's
lightning.
the case,
So she could have
that is
been the
lightning.
Toe of Lightning
Ah,
Yeah,
Ali is
see, that's your lightning
confirmed.
stuff.
because they're a female race anyway.
That
Hey,
makes-
don't get me started on
So is
genders and
Psionics,
races.
too.
Oh.
You know what? Why don't we just make her psionics, and then she would have had the ability to telepathically talk to the Ignika anyway.
Can
Get
we
rid of that
bookmark
mask
gender
altogether.
equality in Bionicle as a future podcast.
I don't want to talk about it right
yes.
All right, that's our second alarm. So now we are definitely wrapping up. Let's stop by explaining shadow as an element.
now. Shadow is an
Okay.
element.
So shadow was an element, and moving on.
Yeah, I get it.
It was an element
doesn't-
that only the Makuta could.
Not true. There is other beings that were able to use shadow,
Well,
but
I mean,
there's
I
very
feel like,
few. But we're
I feel
going
like
back to
moral
our
light
old
and
friend.
moral shadow.
We're
is
going
all.
back to our old friend, Shadow Stealer. That's right. Shadow Stealer had the ability of using shadows.
If he stole enough shadows, would he become a toe of light? There's your thought for the day. Good night.
He had shadow absorption. That's why they called him Shadow Stealer.
Oh,
Right, but if you absorb all the
great name.
shadows, does it make light?
should we talk about this whole moral shadow and moral light somehow equaling like shadow powers and shadow light thing?
That's gonna be
Yeah. Shadow is a tangible thing that is not the absence of light. It's its own thing. This is
well. I mean,
It's just
it's also like fire and ice. Like ice is its own thing. It's not the absence. Like cold is its own element. It's not the absence of heat,
Right.
which is a problem.
It just what is even more broken is now that once they introduce the shadow leeches and also the Kanoi Asa and even Goras's stinger, all of this stuff just draining light.
yeah.
Once they introduce the shadow leech, that just managed to drain all their light, and then they're no longer regenerating light within themselves. And bam, now they are all of a sudden Shadow Matoran because we can't call them Chromatorn.
you can't think of
You could,
can't
but it'd
think
be
of this
dumb.
stuff in terms of how light and shadow actually work. They are powers that represent good and evil. It is what it is. It's light side, dark side. It's Kingdom Hearts nonsense. It's that kind of light.
Yeah, I kind of like I think here's like a very obscure reference. I think Digimon Series 4 where there's
Frontier, very good.
yes, where there's a character who controls light and a character who controls shadow or darkness. And it's there's some moral ambiguity, but ultimately that doesn't determine whether or not you're a good person. like that I can get on board with. This is
Right,
like,
right. Well, so like it would be
that
fine
makes
if
some sense.
they try and like hint at that moral ambiguity sometimes, especially in Makuto's kind of grandiose speeches about how he's really the good guy, et cetera, et cetera. But then they just go back to, nah, just kidding. Everybody who's evil has shadow powers.
But hey guys, Twilight. Total Twilight.
Yes, Takanuva's Twilight phase.
You thought you'd get rid of it. You thought it wasn't there, but it is.
So just to clarify, this entire episode, we've talked, other than Bionicle, we've talked about Avatar, Pokemon, Digimon, and Sparkly Vampires. I think we have to end it now.
yeah.
we've gone all the places we could go.
But very final thoughts. Let's just go over it. If you had to choose one element to get rid of right now, it's completely gone from canon. Pick it right now.
Plasma.
Vacuum.
Vacuum
right.
is not an element.
Don't care.
Back.
Ross, I would.
We already got rid of vacuum. What's that?
Yeah, you go with plasma. I'm tempted to on Psionics, but like plasma.
I'll vote for Psionics on that one. I'll be the one who does that.
Okay, so 2 people for plasma, 1 for Psionics. If I'm going to have to put my foot down, honestly, I'm going to have to say iron. Let's go and get rid of it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Way too broken, way too overpowered. And you already killed off all the Toa of iron anyway, so you might as well just get rid of it.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Yeah.
Huki would have been a Toa of iron, though. I will put my foot down there.
Yeah.
There we go.
He deserved better. He deserved
a lot better.
Not be a different height than his love interest.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Oh, don't worry. He could hook up with the one from the alternative melding universe. The one.
No, but she's the same size.
Exactly. No. You misunderstand. The one where they made Maku the Toa-sized Matoran. Perfect size for him.
I thought she was one of the Toa. Maybe I'm misremembering.
No,
okay.
Maku is not. Oh, no.
Wait.
I thought she was one of the Matoran-sized Toa.
I'd have to look that
very
up
straightforward. I don't understand how you're.
Oh, that alternate universe thing. Oh my gosh, get that out of my head.
And now we're going right back to from previous episode.
We gotta save some material.
Oh no, we already talked about all the
we actually covered a lot of this material.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, you're all right. You're right. She did introduce herself as Toa Maku, and she was the Matoran sized. You're right. Accompanied by the god Matoran Helrix, who was Toa sized. You're right.
So
okay.
Small girls. That's fine.
And on that note,
very bad note, we're done. All right. Thank you for watching. Feel free to follow us on the Twits, on the Faces, on the
Grams.
YouTubes. Yes, the Grams. You know what? Good thing you reminded me. I forgot to throw the Instagram on the last video.
All right, we got a gram.
And if you have any comments or questions about all this, you know how to follow us there. Send us some emails. And hey, if you want, feel free to post here in the video or send us an email or wherever social media. Give us some ideas. Love to hear what you think. Maybe there's a subject we're not thinking of off the top of our heads. Trust us, we've thought about 50 billion thoughts about this whole story. We've had time to think about it, but maybe there's one that you really have the fire's passionate burning and stuff. I think that answers that, yes?
Yep.
TLDR bird
awesome
stuff.
All right. Thanks for watching. This has been Swert, and again, this was with
Dorek,
Spirit,
and Chols still here.
Awesome. All right. Bye.
Good.
Bye-bye.